welcome culture and education. And believe me, these aren't just random words. They define the entire purpose of the channel.
Today, we're diving into Oscar Wilde's incredible and honestly pretty chilling novel, The Picture of Dorian Gray. It's this wild story about a guy who basically makes a deal to stay young and beautiful forever. The catch? A painting of him takes the hit for all his sins, growing uglier and more corrupt over time. So the big question is, how on earth does a simple canvas become the mirror of a man's soul? Let's get into it.
The only way to get rid of a temptation is to yield to it. Wow, that single, really dangerous idea comes from one of the main characters, the super charismatic Lord Henry Wotton. And honestly, it's the spark that just sets this whole story on fire. It's a philosophy that says, hey, just do whatever you want. And for one very impressionable young man, that advice is going to become both his life's motto and his curse. Let's jump into the beginning. We're about to meet the three guys at the center of this whole thing and see the exact moment a casual wish becomes something a lot more like a pact with the devil. Okay, so our story really boils down to these three guys. First, you've got Basil Hallward. He's the artist, and he is just completely captivated by Dorian's beauty. Like, he practically worships it. Then there's Dorian Gray himself, who is just impossibly handsome, wealthy, but maybe a little too easily influenced. And rounding out the trio is Lord Henry Wotton. He's this witty, cynical aristocrat who looks at Dorian less like a friend and more like a fascinating little science experiment. The real trouble begins when Lord Henry starts talking. He gives this incredibly powerful and honestly poisonous speech to Dorian. He basically says, you know that amazing use and beauty you have? Yeah, that's not gonna last. He paints this really grim picture of getting old, getting wrinkles, and just fading away. And for Dorian, that idea is absolutely terrifying. So imagine this. Dorian is just staring at this perfect portrait Basil has just finished. It's him, but perfect, frozen in time. And this crazy question just pops into his head. What if you could stay young forever? What if the painting could get old and wrinkled for you while you just didn't? And just like that, in this fit of pure panic and vanity, he actually says it out loud. He blurts out that he would give anything, even his own soul, if the portrait could age and show the signs of sin, while he stayed exactly as he is in that moment. Of course, he has absolutely no idea that someone or something is listening. So you can really see the two paths pulling Dorian in opposite directions. You've got Basil, who's like the angel on his shoulder, representing conscience, morality, all that good stuff. And then you have Lord Henry, the devil on the other shoulder, just whispering about pleasure and cynicism. And poor Dorian, he's stuck right in the middle of this epic tug of war for his soul. Okay, so the pact is made. Now we get to see what happens next. Dorian, with Lord Henry as his guide, just dives headfirst into a life of pure pleasure. And the whole time, that painting is in a room somewhere, silently keeping score. So what's his new life guide? It's this philosophy Lord Henry calls the new hedonism. And it's pretty simple, really. It's all about chasing pleasure, seeking out every new sensation you can, and doing it all with zero regard for morality. It means right and wrong don't matter, and neither do the people you might crush to get what you want. And it doesn't take long for him to claim his first victim. Her name is Sibyl Vane, a brilliant young actress. But here's the thing, Dorian doesn't fall in love with her, he falls in love with her acting, her ability to be someone else every night. The moment she falls in love with him for real, her acting suffers, and he just dumps her, callously. It's his first truly cruel act, his first real sin. This is where it gets really creepy. After he breaks Sibyl's heart, Dorian gets home and something's off. He looks at the portrait and he swears the mouth has changed. There's this faint sneer of cruelty on its lips that wasn't there before. And that's it. That's the horrifying proof that his wish came true. The canvas is officially keeping tabs on his soul. So fast forward 18 years. For nearly 2 decades, Dorian lives this double life. On the outside, he's the talk of the town. Rumors are flying about his scandalous life, but his face, it doesn't age a day. He's still stunningly beautiful. But behind a locked door, that portrait is becoming a monster, twisting and rotting with every sin, a path that will eventually lead him to murder his own friend, Basil.
Which really brings us to the core of the story, right? What is the price of living a life with no consequences? Because Dorian thinks he's gotten away with it all, but there's always a cost. There's always a bill to pay, and for him, it's about to come due, big time.
So years later, Basil finally confronts Dorian, and he wants to know the truth. And Dorian, in this moment of just twisted pride and rage, decides to show him. He leads Basil up to the locked room, pulls back the curtain, and reveals what's become of his beautiful masterpiece and what's become of Dorian's soul. Basil is, of course, absolutely horrified. He begs Dorian to pray, to repent, but it's way too late for that. For Dorian, having his corrupted soul exposed by the very man who once saw him as perfect, it's just too much. He snaps. He grabs a knife and kills Basil, the one person who ever truly cared for him. And just like that, the last voice of his conscience is silenced for good. So after the murder, things just completely fall apart. Dorian's life spirals into nothing but fear and paranoia. We're in the final act now, and it's all about a guy who got everything he ever wanted and is now just desperately trying to outrun his own reflection.
Yeah, that life of pleasure, it's long gone. Now he's blackmailing an old friend into getting rid of Basil's body. He's being hunted by James Vane, Sibyl's brother, who's out for revenge. He is living in constant, crippling fear. He's no longer a free man. He's a prisoner of his own sins.
At one point, he actually tries to repent. He does a good deed, but his motive is totally selfish. He's not doing it to be a better person. He's doing it to see if it'll make the painting prettier again. And the portrait? Well, the portrait isn't fooled. It knows his heart. It sees the hypocrisy, and an even uglier sneer appears on its face. He finally reaches his breaking point. He's backed into a corner, and he decides there's only one thing left to do: destroy the painting, destroy the evidence. He thinks if he can just get rid of that canvas, he can erase his past and finally be free. So he grabs the same exact knife he used to murder Basil, and he stabs the monstrous figure in the portrait. This is the final, brilliant, devastating twist. The servants hear this horrible crash. They run into the room, and what do they find? They find the portrait of their master looking as young and beautiful as the day it was painted. And on the floor is the body of a disgusting, old, wrinkled man with a knife through his heart. They only recognize him by the rings on his fingers. In trying to kill the painting, his soul, he only managed to kill himself. The pact was broken. And that leaves us with one pretty haunting question, doesn't it? The book really forces you to think about the consequences of your own actions, about the little marks and scars that our choices leave on us, on the inside, where no one else can see. So I'll leave you with this. If your soul was a portrait, what would it look like?